Bruno, I wanted to find out from you, what is the definition of a property practitioner?
So this is going to tie in. This is going to tie into something that Cilna is actually going to speak about. The reason we're rehashing this is because there's constant uncertainty. Recent podcasts and articles and webinars have come out that have actually caused some confusion on it. And guys, the problem is that there is no right or wrong answer at the moment. A lot of this comes down to speculation, comes down to interpretation of the letter of the specific piece of legislation. There might be instances where there's going to be clarification later, exclusion later. So a lot of these things now, just to kind of prep people into getting into the right mindset on how we interpret it. And it's constantly being debated. So the thing with property practitioners that we need to focus on, and I'm going to take all the stuff that we kind of know out of it. The focus comes around like acquisition of gain, right? So if you're making money from somehow dealing with properties. Now, I'm not saying that investors now need to register, but the acquisition of gain is something that's very, very important. So then we start looking at the second point, which is acting on behalf of others. So this now throws a whole bunch of things into the mix because it's acquisition of gain, acting on behalf of others. So your typical estate agency functions would apply the same way they've always applied. So that's sales and letting. Auctions, the same thing. Bond originating, and bond originating is now one of the grayer sides where it's bond originating unless it's a financial institution in terms of the specific legislation, which most bond originators might already be. So, your normal typical bond originator may actually be excluded. And then, so it's typically like your intermediary services, brokering of commercial deals. These now start, like business undertakings are also now included as a property practitioner. So it's everything that we've kind of understood it in the past that already applies, and a couple of new things now that have come into play. The business, the property or business brokering is a new one that's now come into play now that we need to bear in mind. It's so interesting questions that kind of come in that people have been asking, things like curators. If you have somebody administering your estate and they're getting a gain for it, how does that actually look like if they're not an attorney? So that's one of the interesting ones. Developers selling their own properties and not doing a development and then selling on behalf of somebody else, or doing the development on behalf of somebody else. Do they really need to register? Sure, a management company. So I do a lot of tax planning for my clients. We used to use management companies to allow for the flow of money from one company to another. Now, if the management company is actually taking care of a property on behalf of another company, they may very well need to register as property practitioners. These are still questions that we're going to be exploring later. So that's the very quick fire answer to that.
This question was actually asked by one of our viewers, Paul, and he says, what about FCCs for persons other than estate agents, and how do you apply? The PPRA says does not have any info or registration platform on this. So his question is also around that, like Bruno was saying.
Brilliant. Okay, so let me start on what is an FFC. So an FFC, Fidelity Fund Certificate. Obviously, always as estate agents, as soon as you had a trust account, you have to have Fidelity Fund Certificate so that we know there is a fund, the Fidelity Fund specifically for estate agents, that will back a situation if there was misappropriation of funds or improper conduct or whatever from the estate agent. You know that the consumer, so the purchaser, the seller, the landlord, the tenant, whoever suffers financial loss as a result of the actions or omissions of the estate agent can then claim from this fund. It's important, guys, to keep in mind that the Fidelity Fund isn't there like we have professional indemnity insurance or something like that. Unfortunately, you can only claim from the Fidelity Fund once you have already executed in every single way against that person in their personal capacity or in the company, whatever the case might be. This is relevant just to quickly understand what an FFC is. I hear the term used and thrown around quite often, your license as an estate agent. Now, this is not really correct terminology, but be it as it may, the FFC is pretty much what people see as the license, because unless you are registered with the Property Practitioners Regulatory Authority, the PPRA, you will not be able to have a Fidelity Fund Certificate, and without a Fidelity Fund Certificate, you are not allowed to trade as a property practitioner. Okay, so what's currently happening, Paul, to your question? I actually just had a quick conversation with one of my dear friends at the PPRA, and she confirmed that on Friday, they issued directives and statements around the issuing of the FFCs, but it's not relevant for the moment. So yes, where we stand on timelines, if you have a Fidelity Fund Certificate that was issued by the Estate Agency Affairs Board, the EAAB, for the year 2022, you are good to go. You do not need anything new. You are lacquer for 2022 with your current FFC. However, if you are coming into the industry, welcome, and we're very happy to have you here. You need to be able to rate the weather if you are part of
Watch
the
show.
property industry. So if you are new to the industry, welcome. And they are only going to be able to open the portal for new registrations on the 1st of April. I promise it doesn't sound like an April Fool's joke. Only from the 1st of April. So if you go on the website now and you see absolutely nothing that blows your hair back, it's because there is nothing yet that will blow your hair back. For the existing guys, you only need, if you have a current FFC under the EAAB, are we just using these abbreviations like it's normal? But anyway, if you have an FFC issued by the EAAB for 2022, you only need to register and apply for your new FFC through the PPRA by the 31st of October 2022. And they are only opening that portal for that application process in July 2022. So that is the answer, and that I can say that answer not because I am clever or read anything anyway. It's because thanks to this phone and my good friend Delia, I can send a very quick voice note and say, Delia, help me out. And exciting news there for our viewers. She is one of the legal ladies from the PPRA. I've asked her if she will join us as a guest, and we will definitely have her on in the next few weeks. So keep an eye out for that one, so we can get answers directly from somebody in the PPRA, because as Bruno clearly said, we all have so many questions, and very often more questions, more answers than what am I trying to say? More questions than answers. There we go. This is my point. This is the point I'm trying to make. We're all a little confused there, but I'm sure as time goes on, we will start getting more clarity. And obviously from our side, as the Property Law Alliance, we're doing absolutely everything we can to get the answers and to get clarity into the industry as soon as we possibly can.